Good morning. So it is Saturday morning. It's kind of chilly outside. I think it's about minus 25. I haven't uploaded a video this week. I had planned to. I was in the shop for basically the last 3-4 days. I had my forks on my tractor were they weren't the right forks for that tractor, and so they didn't fit quite properly. I'd been using them anyways, but when you tilt it all the way down, you'd bend the bottom pins. So I had to cut the brackets off, make new brackets. I had a pretty cool video on that, and once I was done editing it, it said like something along the lines of there's not enough room on your iPad to save this. So I went and I deleted a whole bunch of stuff. And while I was deleting everything, I deleted the video I just edited, and then I made sure that I did a really good delete, and then I couldn't recover it. So that one is floating around somewhere that we'll never get to see. I've also been taking apart my hammer mill again. I had a leaking seal in the gearbox that I rebuilt this Christmas, and so once I got it apart, there was some other stuff broken. I thought, well, I'm just going to check this gearbox again because it's easier to get it apart now than to do it later. And it's a good thing I did because there was actually a bearing in there that had failed again, and so now I got to get that bearing. But today is going to be my first actual all inside video here. So we got our steer back. We bought 2 steers this summer because I'd never done that before in my life. We've been grain farmers for as long as I've been alive, but never had cattle. So we bought a couple steers, and I wanted to try this out, see what it costs to raise one. And then I thought, if we're going to get one, let's get 2. Actually, the cattle buyer said that. He said, if you're going to get one, get 2. So he brought us 2, and I thought, well, we'll grow one for ourselves, and maybe we'll grow one and we'll try to sell it. So we did we bought a belted Galloway and we bought a Highland, and we sent the Galloway off to get butchered. So we used a professional butcher because I didn't want to tackle that myself. As anybody that's watching this knows, if you get into the butchering business yourself and you don't know what you're doing, you pretty much end up with ground meat, because by the time you're done carving these fancy cuts out of this animal, you end up with just shrapnel, and it goes right in the meat grinder. Anyways, so we sent that off and got that done. So we got it back, I think, on Thursday, and then we started to do some math on it. So I only used 2 numbers for the sake of this, and that's the cost of the steer and the cost of the butchering. So the steer cost me $850, and the butchering cost me $650. So $1,500. Now, the steer live weight was 1,170 pounds. Hanging weight was 673 pounds, and cut and wrapped, was 374 pounds. So those are the numbers we're going to use, because when I started this endeavor, I had no idea. Now, we've bought a lot of local meat, and it's funny, as what comes with shopping local is just like a tremendous amount of trust, right? So the way we do it here is, we know a lot of producers. So we just phone them up, say, look it, I want half a buffalo. Tell me when it's ready. You go to the butcher shop, you pick it up. They send you an invoice, you pay it. I've never looked at any of it. It's always been very reasonable. Same with everything, right? People, if they're going to sell you whatever, from eggs to lamb to pork to sheep to ostriches to goats to whatever, right? You just when you're shopping local, it's really you put a lot of trust into the producer you're buying from, that everything's going to be right and everything's going to be fair. So I had no idea. I mean, is $5,000 enough, or is $2,500 enough, or is $250 enough? I had no idea. So when I started to break it down, we were lucky this time. Good friends of ours, they wanted some of the meat anyways, and they just a little under half of it. So we got that too. So she made a list for my wife of what she wanted, and we got that boxed up for her. And just for the sake of these numbers, we weighed it out, and then I got my wife to go on the internet actually and kind of price it out at the store. So we'll get into that in a minute. But for the total animal, see, I had no idea. There's live weight, hanging weight, and cut and wrapped, right? Finished product weight. So what do you sell by, and how much do you charge a pound? So I got on the internet and I was kind of looking around, and there is a range. Like, holy man, there's a range. I've seen as low as like 250 a pound hanging weight, and the buyer pays the butchering, right? I've seen as high as $5 a pound hanging weight, if you or 450 a pound hanging weight if you take the whole animal. That one didn't indicate if butchering was included. I'm assuming it wasn't. So I did some numbers and pretty basic ones here. I didn't factor in any of the other costs. I didn't factor in feed. I didn't factor in power for heated waters if you're keeping these things over the winter. I didn't factor in land costs and taxes and payments and stuff like that to raise the animal on. I didn't factor in transportation costs of going to get it, bringing it to your farm, bringing it to the butcher. I didn't factor in any of that. I just went with the cost of the animal and the cost of the butchering. So the rest of those costs are going to vary pretty huge depending on, if where you're buying your meat is a mixed farm that has their own grain that they feed, if they're a fifth generation farm that's already well established, maybe the land's been paid for 30, 40 years, you know. So all of that stuff I didn't include. That's kind of a thing that you have to justify yourself when buying local. You have to think like, is it worth giving this local producer the extra money, or should I just go to the store? And is the extra money you're giving them, is it worthwhile? So what we figured out with ours, we ended up with 673 pounds hanging weight. So if you divide the $1,500 that it cost us to butcher the animal and buy the animal, that's $2.22 a pound already that we're out as producers. So that means if we sold it for $2.22 a pound hanging weight, we would just break even. Now remember, that doesn't factor in feed and any of that other stuff. So if we sold it cut and wrap, because that was originally the way we planned to do this, you would need to sell it for $4 a pound cut and wrap. That's just to break even. So to the end user, what does that mean? To the buyer, when you buy by the hanging weight, right, you're not going to get that much. So I broke this down to half of the beef. So if you pay $4 a pound, I got it written down here, that's why I keep looking that way. If you pay $4 a pound hanging weight for 336 pounds, that's $1,344. If you have to pay the butcher too, you got to pay half the butcher, that's $325. So you're going to pay $1,669, and all you're going to get is 187 pounds of cut and wrap meat. That averages out to be $9 a pound. When I seen that, I was like, holy man, just go to the store, right? So my wife got looking, and yeah, she's like, you know what? They're selling some high-end steaks and stuff like that, higher-end cuts for $30 a pound. Now, of course, ground beef is down to $5-6 a pound, depending on. And then I'm not factoring getting anything on sale, because that's a whole nother topic. If you're that efficient where you buy everything on sale, then shopping local probably won't make sense for you. The only benefit would be that it would be local and not made in wherever or product of somewhere else. So that was if you paid the butcher and you paid $4 a pound. If the producer is going to cover the cost of the butchering, to make that same thing work, you'd have to pay $9 a pound cut and wrapped. That would end up being the same. So when I got to looking on the internet, it was everything. It was all over the map, from, like I say, $2.50 a pound hanging weight, you pay the butchering, to $5, $6, $7, $8 a pound hanging weight, we pay the butchering, all sorts of stuff like that. So then I was thinking like, well, maybe what would I need to make this a viable thing, where a guy makes a little money and it makes it worth his time. So I did $4 a pound hanging weight, which is $1,344. Now, if the producer pays the butcher, then it's, the end user is going to pay $1,344. They're going to get 187 pounds of meat, which is going to translate to about $7.20 a pound for every pound of meat. So you're going to get your half, you're going to get a bunch of, roasts, you're going to get steaks, you're going to get ribs, you're going to get all that stuff. So you're probably going to do pretty good. So that total animal, if you sold it for $4 a pound hanging weight and the producer paid the butcher, would be worth $2,688. Now you got to minus the $1,500 out of that. That's the cost of the butcher and the cost of the animal itself, which leaves the farmer $1,188. Out of that $1,188, the rest of the cost has to come. That's the feed, that's the land, the water, the transportation, the if you have any medical medicine or vet bills or any of that stuff, that all has to come out of the $1,188. So I guess the whole video here comes down to is it worth it, right? So when my wife added up what friends of ours got, if they would have bought that at the store at just today's prices, it would have cost them $1,114.90. So, and that was just a little under half of the animal. They got, I think, 139.5 pounds. Half of the animal would be 187. So you see, if you're going to do this in this particular instance, now they cherry picked a little bit, right? They got what they wanted. They took so they didn't get exactly what the half of the animal would yield. They basically just got half of the weight, but they got other things. So like I say, half of the animal would cost, if you sold by $4 a pound hanging weight, and that's all in, the producer paid the butcher and everything else, it costs the end user $1,344. In the case of our friends, to go to the store and buy a little less than half of it would have cost them $1,114. So I guess what I'm saying in this video is, if you want to shop local, you definitely have to make sure that it's going to make sense. We always do. We get very little from the stores, and it is cheaper, right? Like when you average out $7.20 a pound, you will not, it's going to be cheaper than the store. I mean, like Corey seen one, there was a 4-pound roast for $48. Like it's $12 a pound. So you will save money shopping local, but just make sure you understand what you're buying, I guess, and how you're buying it. Because that's one thing I've heard when I've told a lot of people, I try to get everybody that I know on board with buying local, shopping local as much as they can. And one of the biggest things that I hear is, well, I thought I'd get more meat. And that's the misconception, right? When you're buying on the hanging weight, so someone says, you got to pay $4 times, in this case, $336 you got to pay $4 for 336 pounds of meat hanging. You're only going to get a little over 50% of that as actually cut and wrap meat. So you're actually, like I say, that's why your average comes up. You paid $4 a pound, and it actually costs you $7.20 a pound on average for the cut and wrap meat. So it's something that I'm pretty sure, if you've been in the cattle business or in the selling local business, you understand all this. Like I say, I never was. I never even paid attention to it, but now I know. So that's how it's sliced out. Now, there's also other reasons to buy local. And these animals that I chose to use, they're smaller carcass weight animals. So like a belted Galloway is a smaller breed. Highlander is a smaller breed. I got them because when you go on the Highland website or the Galloway website, they're going to tell you this is the best beef in the world. They're going to tell you why. They're going to tell you some fun facts about it, like apparently the Queen of England only eats Highland cows. She has her own herd and everything else like that. So I thought, if we're going to do this, let's just not get an Angus cow and raise it up and butcher it. Let's get something weird, raise it up, butcher it, see if it tastes different, see if we can change its feet up a little bit to make it taste different. So those are other benefits to shopping local. It's like a niche thing or whatever. You gotta, and for all that stuff, you gotta pay a little extra too for the experience. However, I always said too, when you're shopping local, it shouldn't really have to cost more than the store, right? And I believe that it shouldn't. So I guess just make sure that if you're new to shopping local, make sure you understand what you're getting. If you're paying by the hanging weight, who's paying the butchering, how much meat you can expect to get back. Most people should be able to tell you that if they've been in the business for a while. So, as always, thanks for watching. Hopefully you learned something from this video. I know I did. Like this whole process was a learning curve for me. And yeah, we'll see you on the next one.